All right, if we will, let's stand and say the pledge. I pledge to the flag, States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good to see everybody. We get settled in here. I'll need approval for our agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
All right, thank you, Sandra. I need a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, public comment. I've got, Charlene Doe, was that right? Okay. If you would, just give us your name and your address and we'll get it for the record. Give you about 3 minutes, okay?
Good evening. My name is Charlene Thibodeau, and I live at 15 Woodscape Drive. I am concerned that the new UDO map places our neighborhood in the 1.5 acre rural district. Woodscape is a community of hardworking homeowners on half-acre lots. By mapping us as rural, you're effectively labeling our entire street as non-conforming. This designation makes it harder to maintain, finance, and eventually sell our homes. When it comes time to move, who will want to buy a property that the town has officially labeled as out of code? And please don't just tell us to apply for a variance. We all know that that's a cumbersome, often unsuccessful process that places the burden on the resident. I respect that many of you live on large rural tracts, and I don't judge you, and I'm not jealous of that. That is a wonderful part of Mills River too. But Woodscape represents a different, equally important part of our town. The neighborhoods where regular people own their homes on half-acre lots. We need a map that protects our way of life too, even if it looks different from yours. We are a friendly neighborhood, and some of my neighbors were able to come on pretty short notice. We didn't hear about this nearly soon enough. We're a friendly neighborhood where people walk dogs and look out for one another. We agree with the goal of keeping Mills River rural, but it shouldn't be at the expense of established neighborhoods. It feels like this plan was well underway before we ever had a seat at the table. I just got a postcard in the mail Monday, and I've spent all weekend since then diving in, trying to understand, and I'm still lost. Yeah, postcards are not sufficient for this. I ask the council to slow this process down. Please reconsider the mapping for Woodscape and use a residential label like the existing MR30, or make up a new one that reflects the reality of our half-acre lots. Don't ignore people who already live here. We're not just some blank piece of land. Some of us have been here a really long time. Some of my neighbors have been there about 40 years. Thank you.
If you would, make sure y'all stay, and when our DO consultant gets up, we'll make sure we address some of this and see if we can get some understanding ourselves, okay? Thank you. I've got, Bert, do you want to speak now?
Good evening, members of Town Council. My name is Bert Lemkes, 134 Rolling Mills Road. I'm here as a member of the Agriculture Advisory Committee. I'd like to address the proposal on the agenda concerning potential residency requirements for appointment to our committee. Our committee has the critical function of providing valuable insight and guidance on ag matters for the town. And it's important to note that many of those operating bona fide farm operations within the town of Mills River, the owners may not reside within its boundaries. The involvement of these owners is essential to our community's ag success and the broader objectives of our Ag Advisory Committee. So as an advisory body, we have a different position than the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board. So I strongly encourage council to maintain that it doesn't become a requirement for the members of the Ag Advisory Committee to live in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for public comment? That's the only ones I had wrote down, but I'll give anybody 3 minutes if they wish. Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, we'll move along. Okay, council comments. Who wants to start us off? Sandra?
I will. Thank y'all for coming and speaking on your neighborhood. We're very interested in hearing that, and we're gonna discuss that later, as Shannon said. I would also like to bring something up. I went to the LG take spoke on the Mud Creek Creedville, and it goes through the south end of Main Street where the German restaurant is, Fresh Market is, that area in there. And there's been a lot of flooding in there. Well, that corridor down through there has not been kept maintained. And it's a waterway, a flood hazard. It always has been, and they've known about it. But they didn't keep it up. And building took place, and storms took place, and time took place. And they've been working on this for quite a while. And they're to the point now to where they're starting to get some of it finished to help protect residents and businesses and roadways. But since it's been going on, they're now $4.2 million into it. So I think it's important that we still pay attention to our floodplains and keep them maintained and keep them functional, and don't let them just go away and construction and stuff happen, and roadways even, and change them. They need to be maintained and kept up, because $4.2 million is a lot for a floodplain. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Jim? James? I'm gonna remind everybody that, this ice is coming in here supposedly, it's snow. Just a good reminder, if you're gonna run them generators, make sure they're outside. Keep them outside. Don't get them inside. We'll have to have a rescue squad up there to help your fire department, if you're that lucky. Another thing, if you'll turn your breakers off when you know that power's off, whenever they turn this power back on, and you're going to get surges, it's going to burn a lot of your components up. All these electronics could possibly even start a fire in your house. So, and another thing it does is if everybody in that whole zone had theirs off when they flip these transformers back on, it ain't such a surge and won't burn some more transformers up. So as it comes on, if it comes on more gradual and slowly, we'll have a lot more success countywide, Mills River wide, as far as getting us back on a little bit quicker, not have to create more work for them. So, but everybody just please be careful. Don't get out unless you have to. I would suggest you turn your main breaker off. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, turn all your other breakers off except for maybe your living room, and leave one of them lights on that you know is just a single switch and ain't got a 3-way switch. Then when the power comes back on, it's just that one light pulling power. You'll know you got power on. You can go flip your main and let everything else come back to life. It's just a big thing. Duke they don't tell us this but I've been to a lot of seminars in the past. If they could just get everybody to do that, they just feel like they could get it back on ours quicker. Okay? That's all I got. Okay, manager updates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mayor, for your comments around the winter storm. I think it's fortuitous for us that we had already planned to have our public safety partners here this evening for another item. And so I'm sure that they're going to also give us an update from their perspectives on preparations around the county and around our community, prepare ourselves for the upcoming inclement weather. Just a couple of items. We're continuing to monitor, obviously, the storm. It's, as any is, but it does look like right now a later Saturday, and I say Saturday noon to 3 timeline. But again, subject to change, we're going to recommend you all, as you all have heard, significant as the mayor mentioned, both the power outages that are concerned and also again tree limbs falling, etc. But then also the days afterwards, the cold. We want to make sure that the Mills River community is aware of the opportunities and options that are out there. And over the next day, myself and the managers around the county are going to be meeting to talk through what those options are, and we're going to be pushing the nation out as quickly as we can through all of our social media channels, et cetera, where the community is aware. I also wanted to bring to the council, to the council's eye, as well as to those within the audience, that we have update to where now, and we had first thing morning as an alert first thing in the morning, but we now have a page called emergency information warehouse website where people will go to and see information on who you need to call under certain circumstances, energy, water, et cetera, et cetera. So both utilities, and then also different applications, so different apps and websites that are also helpful during this time. I'm excited to announce that one of the items that council has put forward, which is the Brave Alert system, is one of those options that can now go on and click on that link and be able to register for it. It's there's directions on there for how to go. I do know that that there are so many in the town that have already set up for Henderson County 911 smart 911 system and Rave Alert system. This is on the same system, and see a River opt-in option for you. And again, all the instructions are online. The one especially type of event is our emergency management part, and have the skills necessary to get information around emergency and emergency information out as quickly as possible. They have the apparatus and the resources. So I would really recommend you into Henderson County emergency management option. In our own capacity here at the town, especially now and in the future, we'll be working on providing emergency notifications for the town, specifically under declared emergency, because our resources are more finite than what the county is. The county is able to really push out a lot more emergency information. So I would highly recommend registering for both. And then over the next months, you're going to start seeing our ability to push out more information. My thought process on that is because we want to make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. When emergencies happen, we want to make sure you get the information as fast as humanly possible. That's where Henderson County is that apparatus right now, first and foremost. I want to thank our partners for that. A couple of other items. I know I spoke quite a bit on that, but a couple of other items. It's a hard transition. Yeah. But as a reminder, all personal property and business personal property needs to be listed with Henderson County by January 31st. Our tax collector is not here today, but I know that she's now happy knowing that she's listened to me say that. So please make sure it's registered with Henderson County by the 31st. And then as a reminder, we have a large scale public forum around the UDO process coming up. Go ahead and mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 10th from 6:30 PM to 8:30 PM. Again, that's Tuesday, March 10th, from 6:30 PM to 8:30 PM at Mills River Elementary in the gymnasium, just like we had a little while back. At that meeting, again, our consultants are going to come up and talk a little bit more tonight about where we're currently at with the process. But at that meeting, specifically looking at reviewing the third draft of the zoning map at that point, as well as the consolidated revised drafts of the entire UDO. That's the plan as of right now. So all this work coming up in these pieces will come together and culminate into a large scale March meeting. And we're going to do, again, our due diligence, getting that information out as much as possible. If you've received a postcard, scan the QR code that'll take you to imaginemillsriver.com. That's how you get all the up-to-date information, as well as being able to sign up through email for alerts about these upcoming important events. And I believe that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. All right, approval of our consent agenda by motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian.
And I'll second it.
Just thank you, Jeff. Any discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda, our Town of Mills River quarterly update.
And thank you, Mayor and Council. Just because of the unique circumstances we're under, what I'm going to ask is that we bring our, normally I would go first and the public safety partners would come after me. I'm going to ask that they go first. Then we table this until after the UDO and where we can get more into the details. But if I may, I'm just going to ask Chief Burnett to come up, and our friends over at Henderson County Sheriff's Office, Captain Cantwell and others, to please come up and present. And Chief, since you're closest, there you go. You drew the straw. There you go. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening,
Evening.
Mayor, members of council. Thanks for allowing me to give you a update this evening, and thank you for your remarks about operations during the storm. It's certainly very important. That's one of the things I really want to focus on tonight, is just emphasizing our community to be prepared. We've got about 24 hours left before we really start being affected by this. And so the window is shortening, but you still have time tomorrow to make some preparations for sure. This has the potential to be an extended event because of the temperatures. We very well might have limited travel even into the beginning of next week. And so plan for that. Members of our community, make sure that you have medication, make sure that you have what you need for 3, even 4 days. Obviously the infrastructure to our power, and then also to our road network. Those are going to be the two impacts. And so just plan on not having power and not being able to travel into early next week. So plan for that now. Ready.gov is a really good resource. The manager talked about the resources that are on the Town of Mills River website. Ready.gov is another really good resource. Mills River Fire Department, we have some good resources. Henderson County Sheriff's Department, Henderson County Emergency Management has good resources. So members of our community, if you need some tips on that preparation, those are all some good places to go. But in summary, have a plan, make a kit, and stay informed. That's the 3 big things that everyone in our community needs to do through this storm. The fire department, we have pre-deployed tractors in all 4 of the districts here in Mills River. And so that's going to be very beneficial for us to be able to respond as trees and power lines start to come down, and especially if we have ice, which it's trending towards an ice event more than a snow event, which will have a bigger impact to power than snow alone, as we all know. And so those tractors being pre-deployed really help us get to people when they need help. So Friday night, make sure everybody plugs in their phones, has those completely charged, and hopefully the communication networks, the cellular networks, will stay intact. So
Scott, if I've had 2 or 3 elderly people reach out to me, and if there is a shelter established in Henderson County, will y'all have any resources to transport them people to the, okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so Henderson County, would manage opening that shelter, and we would absolutely assist with, anybody in the town of Mills River that needs to get a shelter. Excellent question.
Anything else for Scott while he's up?
I had just one other update. So, our board of directors at Mills River, they've hired a consultant to, find our full-time fire chief. And so, that process will start next month. And, they'll build a candidate profile, and they'll be reaching out to, stakeholders in our community to find out, what that candidate profile needs to look like. But, hopefully, around June, that selection will be made. So,
We sure appreciate you being there as long as you have.
absolutely. Yeah.
It'd be a great resource to reach out, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for your
All right, yeah.
time.
Thank y'all.
But, Mayor and Council, if I may, real quick, and Chief, you don't have to stay up here if you don't want to. I just want to, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention, and I apologize for not mentioning this in the previous item, is that on the website as well, in the myriad of options, Mills River Fire and Rescue have also released an application, an app as well that you can download. And so the information is also under that emergency information page. And again, great resource for information that's necessary, that the community, can use to their benefit. And then also, I really want to thank the chief and the entire Mills River Fire Rescue crew, because they're also offering up, again, their space for the next community conversations meeting. And so that community conversations meeting is the quarterly meeting that we just started up. This is the second time. We're gonna, first time worked out decently well. We're hoping to improve on it the second time. It is scheduled for February 5th. That is a Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the main fire station right on 280. Again, we're pushing out information about that as well, but I really want to thank the chief and everyone over there for being such a strong supporter of the community conversations frame. So thank you.
Thank you.
Either one, whichever must come.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm Stephanie Campbell. I am the captain for the sheriff's office. This is actually my district. So wanted you to make sure you saw me if you know me. So my on the sheriff's website is any of my information. So please feel free anytime you guys have questions. I'll be happy to help. I'm going to touch base just a little bit on the weather, and then I'll pass it down the line for some statistics. If I can talk tonight, forgive me. Some stuff the county is currently doing, of course, at 4 o'clock every day. We meet with emergency management, and then we also talk to all the weather systems. They give their presentations. I would like to tell you that we know a lot about what's happening, but we do not, and I'm not sure that they do either. Or a lot of us are going to have to wait till they get here. The biggest thing, in 2 days, we went from 20 inches of snow to now they say we're going to get about 1 inch of ice. Do understand if that happens, we probably will have widespread power outages. So do plan ahead. Make sure you have some type of alternative source of heat. As the chief said, plug in your phones. If you've got the battery chargers, go ahead and get those done. If you've got generators, again, do not run those inside. That can cause death potentially. So we want to make sure that we don't do that. If it only rains, one of the biggest concerns, and they were pretty confident about this today, Monday night into Tuesday, we are looking about 4 degrees with a wind chill of about -8. So again, anything on the road is going to be ice. But the great news is, unfortunately, because of Helene, we learned a lot, and our folks are prepared, which I think is good, just as well as yours. And so they are looking at shelter options. Everything right now is in the planning stage, but when the weather is it's kind of changing with everything, we're playing by ear as to what's happening, but plans are in place, and that's a really positive thing. So that's kind of where we stand with the weather right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all again tonight, council, for having us. I'm gonna give y'all some updated stats. Jordan Warren, I'm our patrol captain. Give you some stats on the patrol side. I know last time calls for service were up a little bit. Those were our busy months. Since temperatures have dropped and everything, call volume's down. For your quarterly total this year, you have, or for this quarter, is 931 calls for service. Again, that is calls that's been called in from the citizens, the community, bypassers, self-initiated stuff by law enforcement. With that being said, our arrests are up. That's 19. That's not saying there's been more crimes committed in the town of Mills River. That's just Officers have had more downtime to be proactive, working 280, sitting here. A lot of these are arrests coming from Buncombe County, Transylvania, people coming here. So hardly any of them were the citizens of Mills River. We've had 13 citations. Biggest things that we're seeing on the patrol side, 280, is after about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I don't know if y'all are out there. Officers are sitting right here, kind of near South Mills, trying to work traffic because they are coming through there a speed 75, 80, 90 miles an hour. So we are trying to focus on some traffic enforcement. I know highway patrols kind of getting out there too. So that is a big thing. 191 traffic, I think, has slowed down a little bit from last time. But again, we emphasize in 280, it's going to pick up. So we're constantly battling the speeds right there. Some other things to give y'all some updates with patrol. I've talked to the chief as well, some concerns with the response time for Mills River with our deputies. There's going to be 2 paired up at all times in vehicles. So we're going to have all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drives. So if there's any life-threatening emergency, 911 emergency, they are going to be stationed at the Mills River Station 2. That at all times. That way they can jump out on 280 if they have to, and they're not coming from a central location, being the sheriff's office. So depending on how much bad weather we get, the response time, it's still going to be extended coming from the main station right there, but it's not going to be an hour and a half. It might be 45 minutes because we're going to have to operate with very due regard, caution to everything, officer safety, to ensure that we get there. But there is going to be 2 deputies assigned strictly here to Mills River. They've been advised too, if things get bad, they're going to be staying here overnight. So we don't worry about the response time. It's going to be long depending on how much weather we get, but there will be 2 deputies assigned to Mills River, and they will be paired up. Another thing that we are taking precautions of when they're out here, if they're coming by, there's a stranded vehicle on the side of 280, 191, anywhere in the Mills River area. We're doing it throughout the county. The officer's job is to get out, go in, check the vehicle to ensure somebody hasn't run out of gas or anything like that. So if you see yellow caution tape on the driver's side mirror, all that is saying that vehicle has been checked. It is clear. There is nobody in there. There is no hazards. That is an empty vehicle. And that lets, if y'all know, and law enforcement and the fire department will pass that on to highway patrol, that is a safe car and there's no health hazards in there. Do y'all have any questions on the patrol side with how the deputies are being in Mills River? I'll be more than glad to answer any of those questions.
I just got one.
Yes,
Call
sir.
for service. Does animal control, is them causing that leak?
Absolutely. Yes. Calls for service, AE is in there. That is all the calls that we get from the sheriff's office. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And good thing is there's not too many of those that come in
Yeah,
for
it
Mills
used to
River.
be a lot
There
worse.
used to be a lot,
Oh,
yes, but they are still doing a good job with that.
Exactly.
So they go up and down.
Yeah,
So,
we-
but for this time, there hasn't been too many.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. Appreciate you letting us come out here and do this little speech. I'm Captain Darren Whitaker. I'm also a captain up here in the Mills River area. I'm on this side of 191. Stephanie is on that side of 191. So we split it. I'm going to start out with some of the criminal investigation cases. We've had one check fraud case that is an active investigation. We've had 2 reports of larcenies. Both of those have been closed by leads exhausted, and that's probably the hardest cases that our detectives investigate. There's really not much to go on unless you got a good camera system or you got a good witness or you got good physical evidence. So a lot of times just larcenies are hard to prosecute. One identity theft that investigation has been closed. Larceny from a coin machine, which is Coke machine or whatever. It was arrest made with that. Larceny of ATV that was closed, leads exhausted, but the vehicle's been entered NCIC, so if somebody does get out with it, law enforcement, they'll be able to run the VIN number and come out be able to identify that. Larceny of a firearm, same thing. Nothing to prosecute, nothing to investigate, but the gun is entered NCIC, so if it pops up in a pawn shop or in another investigation, they'll run the serial numbers, it'll come back. So there's, I'm just gonna get you a count, 1, 2, 3. 13 cases that were assigned to CID from patrol reports. Our special investigation unit and major crimes did not have any cases in Mills River. These are from October to end of December. So they hadn't had any. I don't really go into the drug enforcement cases. They are being worked. I just don't like to go in and give a lot of information just because of operation security. Let's see. Also, Miss Stephanie and Jordan, if there's any organization, church, homeowner association, any group that would like a fraud or scam presentation, personal safety presentation, we go out and do those. We do those day, night, even whenever it's convenient for them. So just contact me or Stephanie. Everybody has our contact information. So if you go to the website or our app, you can also get some information on some fraud and scams that are actively the deputies are taking reports on. So you keep you up to speed on that in case you get phone calls saying that you missed jury duty and we're gonna come to your house and arrest you. First, go by CVS and get me a Green Dot gift card. So, other than that, I think.
I'm just gonna give one thing for the storm potentially, and it's not a scam, but we have no power. Remember, your credit cards and your debit cards are not gonna work. You can buy them with cash just in case.
But ma'am, I'm just gonna repeat that just in case the microphones didn't pick it up.
Yep.
You're more than welcome to. Yeah, I'm sure you can do it more eloquently than I can.
I'm not sure about that tonight. No, just a reminder that if we do have widespread power outage, we learned in Helene, unfortunately, that credit cards, debit cards won't work. So it'd be smart to maybe get some cash out just in case. And hopefully we'll be back and running. Hopefully we won't go out, but if it does, hopefully we'll be back and running soon.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all's time and effort and updates. It keeps the community up to speed on where you're at. We can ask us whenever we need to, but it's good for them to hear it come out of y'all's mouth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mayor, just speaking of the storm event, they were talking about the road closures as well. I want council to be aware and also for the community to be aware that we're in constant communication at the staff level about the park access itself. Again, as the timeline continues to shift, we know that people want to be able to get access to the park and, especially when the storm, as the storm's coming, I don't know about you all, but for my dog, want to make sure that, maybe run to the dog park, be able to utilize the services as much as possible. We're talking through whether, if it's appropriate and if it is, when it's appropriate to close down the park for the safety of all users. I would just recommend, again, keeping up with our social media pages and others just to say if that closure does happen, we're going to try to push it out as fast as possible. We don't want people to be on the roads, potentially putting themselves at risk to come out to the park.
Okay. And I'd like to elaborate on that just a little bit. Me and Matt met this morning and I explained to him if we get a snow and it gets they just drive in here on it and it gets packed down, then next week it's down to 7 degrees. It may be a week before we can get the park back open. So if we can keep it loose filled till we can get it off of there and get some parking area out here in front ready to go, it'll just get town hall open back up and the park itself back open a lot quicker.
Mr. Mayor, can I add something?
Absolutely.
And a resource that's out there, North Carolina Department of Transportation has a traveler's incident management system, and they actually show the road conditions, the roads that are covered in snow and ice, and it's updated real time as the crews are out working, trying to remove the snow and ice. They update that. So it's a good resource to check. Please say a prayer for our DOT folks, of course, our sheriff's department and our fire department that's going to be out there in the middle of this. If you can, stay off the roads because it gets dangerous, and don't follow the salt truck real close. It's not good for your car. Because they will have salt trucks. Yes, ma'am. It's 280. If don't quote me on this, is it what the DOT used to call a bare pavement route? And I say route versus route because route is when UNC comes to Death Valley. So a bare pavement route, and they work on those first. The interstates, 280, the primary highways, and everyone else, we just got to be patient because the resources have to be used in as fair a way as they can. So they'll get to the roads as they work their way out, get them clear. But with 280 and I-26 and Highway 25, 191, they want those roads to be bare. They will they will put the resources on those because they're their major arterials. So if you can, give them a break, stay off the road, you know, let them do what they got to do.
Matt, can you put that link he was just talking about, for everyone by tomorrow? Perfect.
Yes, sir. In fact, we were just talking about making a note of that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sorry about the Carolina joke. Not
And to
sorry.
explain it a little bit better, if it gets packed down and it turns to ice, the only way to get it off is with a motor grader with down pressure and a blade. So these trucks, all they can do is put ice melt on top of it and a little traction in places. Some of these new engineered roads, they can't put the sand and stuff in it because it fills up the ports to get the
That's right.
water off the road that your tires ain't getting. So just be aware of everything. Less you own it, the better off we are, the quicker.
And salt works down to about 19 to 20 degrees. Below that is just gravel. So, and in some places they do a mixture of sand and salt. Sometimes, I mean, they have an anti-clumping agent, but if you're behind a salt truck too close, or you pass one and they're applying mixture to the road, you know, it's like I say, it's not really good for your car.
Anyone got anything else on this update before we table to come back to it in a few minutes? Okay. All right. I'd entertain a motion to table the quarterly update till later tonight.
So I'll make a motion to table the quarterly update till after the UDO presentation.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on what we did? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. We'll move on to our presentation on our draft module 2 of our UDO project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Chad Meadows. Get set here. Right. There we go. All right. All set? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for the chance to be here with you guys tonight.
Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to talk a little bit about UDO and hopefully answer some questions. Appreciate that there's some people in the audience here who are asking about the project. That's good, and happy to talk with them either after my presentation or at some other time that's convenient for you. So I'd like to talk a little bit about project status, where we are. I really would like to applaud you, your staff, and the people who live here, the steering committee, about the level of engagement that we've had on this project up to this point. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm happy to talk about some of the changes based on the feedback that we've received to this point. While we're still midway, the fact that we've had so much engagement and so much participation has allowed us to make some positive changes in the draft material that we've given you thus far, which is tremendous. We're very happy and excited about that. So I'm glad to talk about some of that stuff tonight. I want to talk about some of the safeguards that this process and that these provisions are trying to put in place to protect the people who own property and who live here. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that and then where we go from here. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please stop me at any time. Project status. This is a copy of the project schedule. I have circled task 4, the initial draft. That is where we are. We are about midway through the project, though we will be finishing this project in the next 5 months or so. As you guys know, we have an external deadline applied to us by others here in the state that we are working to meet. So it is our anticipation to have this document, if you do decide to adopt it and the map, that take place by the end of June of 2026. So we are about 5 months out, plus minus. The good news is we have 5 months and we're not at a point where it's too late to make any changes. That's not a thing. We have a good amount of time to continue to tweak this, and we fully expect to do so. So that's where we are. We have delivered chapters 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 of the UDO. Half of the UDO, it's been delivered and it's been under review. In fact, you guys have given us through your staff, some great comments. The balance of the chapters, 2, 6, 8, and 9 are drafted. We are still making a little bit of tweaks. We will deliver to you tomorrow, chapter 2, the procedures chapter in its entirety, and half of chapter 6. Those are the standards. Okay, so parking, landscape, signage, lighting, etc. That stuff is in chapter 6. We'll deliver the second half of chapter 6 and the balance of chapter 8. Remember, you've already got part of chapter 8, the definitions chapter. We'll finish up the remaining definitions and the balance of chapter 6 for you next week. Okay. I understand that council's been doing roundtable discussions, and if we can be of service or assistance in y'all's discussions, please feel free to avail yourselves of myself, of Karen and I, and we are happy to answer questions and talk about alternative language with you should the need arise. So we are happy to make ourselves available if that facilitates, y'all's work. So this is where we are on the project. I mentioned a second ago how great the engagement has been. You guys have a steering committee. They're made up of your board of adjustment and your planning board members. We've had 8 meetings thus far, and we've got 3 more to go. But because of the time constraints, because of the complexity of this material, this steering committee asked, and we were happy to agree to do additional meetings with them. We have scheduled 7 additional virtual meetings with them, and we anticipate doing more. Frankly, that's unheard of for a steering committee to have met potentially up to 20 times over the course of a project like this. I've been doing this work for 30 years. That doesn't happen, but your folks are committed, and they've got some great ideas. One of which I'm going to share with you in a minute that I'm extremely happy about. We had a public open house meeting in December. We had 130 people at that meeting. Guys, you don't get 130 people to zoning meetings. That is not a common occurrence. That is an outstanding level of attendance, and you should absolutely be thrilled and congratulate yourselves and the people who live here about doing that. 1% of the community, 0.5% of the community, that's pretty typical. You guys had more than that, and that's fantastic. And it's very uncommon. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So the fact that you have that level of interest exists in your community about this project is fantastic, and it holds us in good stead for going forward. Postcards. This council asked that we do a better job making sure that people were aware of this project. Staff mailed out 4,800 postcards, as you know, to all landowners here in town. It's working. The Thibodeaux are here because they got the postcard. So that's positive. That's not a negative. That's not a y'all aren't doing enough. That's an example of how doing something makes a difference. I know that that'll continue. And it's just another testament to how dedicated this town is to making sure that everybody has a chance to speak on this project. So I think that's fantastic. Finally, we have a project webpage, imaginemillsriver.com. We've had over 350 people sign up for updates on that webpage. Guys, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. We work in a lot of communities that consider themselves to be highly engaged communities, and we don't see those kinds of numbers for these kinds of projects. So again, just applause and congratulations to you for the level of engagement that we've enjoyed and that we continue to expect as we go forward. We're happy to see that and hope for more. Let's talk about some of the changes based on the feedback from the engagement that we've had. There's 4 of them. There's some changes about perceptions of development potential, changes with respect to agricultural protection, changes for protecting the Mills River way of life, and then finally protecting rural character. So I'd like to talk about some of these. This is the first one. Perceptions of development potential. You see on the screen and behind me 2 maps. These are your zoning maps. First one, the one on the left, shows your Mills River mixed use MRMU zoning district in green. Your steering committee suggested to us that perhaps that transmitted the wrong message to the community. When we started coming out with this project, there was a lot of concern about how we were increasing development potential, how we were bringing more development potential to Mills River, how we were going to change the character of Mills River in a negative way by encouraging more development than was here. We thought perhaps that had something to do with the fact that the zoning map shows the MRMU zoning district as green. People anticipate or sort of expect green to be agriculture or residential, sort of a low intensity, low impact kind of use. That it couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, the MRMU district is a commercial district. It allows residential. It allows a lot of non-residential. And it does so with very, very few dimensional standards and compatibility protections. And so the map on the right, the same map, actually portrays development potential based on the zoning district designations in place. So this is much more akin to where you are right now. This is the Mills River development potential on the right-hand side. 75% of your land area is open for development as mixed use, as commercial, not residential. So we want to be sure that people understand part of this project is to protect the rural character, is to control development potential, is to give the town more control over what's coming here. And everything being mixed use is not the way to do that. So we're hoping that that helps people understand some of what this project is about. Agricultural protection. You guys have told us, the steering committee has told us, the community has told us. Mills River is an agricultural community. That needs to be respected. In fact, ordinance number 1 for Mills River is protecting agriculture. The first ordinance this town passed. So it's important. When we first came out with the zoning maps, we had a zoning district named agricultural residential, AGR. 3 acres, it allows agriculture, it also allows residential. And people got confused. They thought, wait a minute, do I have to do agricultural in this district? Is this the only place I can do agriculture? Understandable that that was confusing. That was not our intention. It just happened to be the name that we selected because it was the least dense. It was the most rural, most undeveloped. We have since changed the name to Rural Preservation, RPV, to better reflect what we're talking about here is protection of rural areas, existing farming, undeveloped land. Maybe there's some homes on some larger lots out there, but that this is a rural preservation district. That's what this is intended for. So we hope that that helps people understand more about our commitment, the town's commitment to protecting agriculture. Now we've clarified bona fide farms are exempt from zoning. That was in your first ordinance. It's carried forward in this draft. You're a bona fide farm, you're exempt from zoning. There are some development provisions that apply to you, subdivision, flood, that sort of thing, but that applies to everybody. We want to clarify, and we've made some changes. The use table included some agricultural districts, and that threw people for, or some agricultural uses, and that threw people for a loop. They're like, why is this in here where agriculture is exempt? Reason that those agricultural uses were listed in there was to clarify for everybody that you can, in fact, do those uses here in Mills River. If it's not in the use table, some jurisdictions take the position that it's not allowed. So we wanted to be sure that it was clear to everybody that agricultural uses, whether you're in a bona fide farm or not, are permitted. And so they are, by right, permitted in every single zoning district here in Mills River. Okay? We've also added more detail to the, what I'll call homestead agricultural uses. These are folks who've got an acre of land or a half acre of land or a smaller lot, and they'd like to have a garden, or maybe they've got horses or chickens or goats. Maybe they like to grow tomatoes, whatever. All of that is allowed by right on those residential lots. And so we want to just be clear that everybody understands we're not here to stop people from doing agriculture, prevent agriculture. We're here to open our arms to agriculture and welcome agriculture and allow agriculture to take place unencumbered by development regulations to the extent that we can do that. Okay? Protecting the way of life. We've heard a lot about how people wanted to come to Mills River, have a house, run their business from their property, and not have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy, not a lot of silly rules, not a lot of government reaching into your pocket. We've heard that over and over again. In order to recognize that and demonstrate our commitment to it, we want to suggest this new residential mixed district. I know staff has talked with you about this. This is a district that permits single-family homes and commercial businesses on the same lot. Okay, these are for the people who moved here to live and work on the same piece of property, as they've been able to do for decades. That needs to be carried forward. It needs to be protected. It's available to anybody who is doing that today. All you have to do is ask, and we're happy to make that change on the zoning map for you. You need to be doing it now, right? But it is there for you. We've also included the family subdivision procedure that allows a transfer of a lot between any direct family members, up or down. Okay, so direct family members can transfer lots through the family subdivision process. It's fast, it's easy, and the lots can be the smaller of 1 acre or the zoning district minimum. So even if you're in the RPV 3 acre minimum lot size district, you can still do a family subdivision of 1 acre, right? Same with the rural residential, the 1.5 acre minimum lot size. I can still, via a family subdivision, do a 1 acre lot transfer, legal. Okay, so we're trying to recognize that people want to be able to give their children property to build a house without a lot of bureaucracy, without a lot of trouble. So that's the family subdivision. Rural character. You guys have made clear to us. Residential density should not exceed 4 units an acre anywhere in town. And we have taken that up. That is on board. It is in the regulation. Now, that's an average number. Okay. Remember, on a conservation subdivision, or in some other instances, people might use smaller lots, right? That with homes that might be closer together than, one on a 10,000 square foot lot. But the balance of the site is left open. In those instances where we would consider these smaller lots with homes closer together, part of the deal is that you have to screen that development from view. We don't want the view of those smaller lots with homes closer together to impact the rural feel of the community. Okay, so it's an important part of the clustering of having these smaller lots is that they're out of sight and out of mind. Okay. There's also additional buffer requirements that we're going to be instituting to make sure that they're hard to see or not visible at all. We've removed any incentives that might allow extra density. There's some other communities that use those. That's not appropriate here in Mills River. And anything that we had in the draft material has removed possibility for an incentive that might raise a density above 4 units an acre. Okay, so that's a truism for us, and we're going to stick with that based on the input that we received. Absolutely.
Is that 2-story? Is that from the front door elevation? Because us in the mountains, a lot of times we'll have a basement and 2. Is that?
So the 2 stories is intended to be as open and flexible as we can make it, while at the same time wanting to be sure that we don't have a lot of trees peeking out over treetops. We want to keep the homes in the trees to the extent that we can.
Okay.
So it's an easy question. The answer is a little bit more complicated. We measure height in ways based on what is the grade of the lot and where are you taking the height from. We also measure it to just different places. It's probably the midpoint of a sloped roof is where the maximum height gets measured. The origin point for your height measurement could be at the front door. It could be at an average location across your site. We'll pick the location that gives people the benefit of the doubt, okay, but also works to protect the community character. It's not our intention to penalize people. It's our intention to protect the character that's here. Finally, limiting residential dwelling types to just single-family detached or 2-family in the lowest density residential districts, the rural preservation district, the rural residential district, and the low density residential district. Initially, we had suggested some alternatives, some things like maybe triplexes, or in some instances, some townhome development in those districts. After discussion with your steering committee, they just don't think that that's part of the Mills River character. We agree. There's a place for that kind of development. We have a district for that. Those kinds of uses can go there, and that's just fine. Now, we also have the accessory dwelling unit. So I don't want people to assume that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a hard time finding a place for my relative or my person returning from college or whatever. That stuff is protected. That stuff's still allowable. Those accessory dwelling units are smaller than the principal structure, but we're suggesting that those be allowed by right. Okay. So those are some of the things, some of the changes that we've made based on what we've heard so far. And we think they're positive. We think they're headed in the right direction. And I know that the material that we have given you guys feels like a lot. And to be fair, it is a lot. Your current zoning ordinance is 50 years old. So things have changed, right? The development pressure that's here is not the same development pressure that you had in the 1980s. So our rules have to be a little bit more complicated. And then finally, we need to give you some more so you can look at what your options are. It was never our intention for you to take everything we gave you hook, line, and sinker. We expected you to look at it and say, that sounds good, or no, change that. And that's what's happening. That's how the process is unfolding, which is great. And I think we're headed in the right direction in terms of y'all's goals for protection of your residents and protection of your character. And here's some examples of the changes that were made in pursuit of that. Okay. Let me talk about some of the safeguards that we've built into the process. I know there's still a lot of concern on the part of the community about this change, right? Change is hard, change is scary, and that's understandable. We have done and will continue to do whatever we can to safeguard residents from negative impacts from this project. We talked about the keep what you got doctrine, right? Everybody who exists now is made conforming. The UDO will not create non-conforming development. It will not create non-conforming development. Everything that exists now is allowed to stay as it is and is authorized to be there unless you're under an active zoning violation case. Okay. It goes even farther. You have current nonconformities in place today, things that don't comply with the ordinance. This project grants amnesty to those things, so they get to stay too. So not only do you have the folks who are here today, you have the folks who are here today who don't meet the rules. Everybody gets blessed and gets to stay like they are. We've got an objective process for the zoning translation, right? We went through the process of assigning new zoning districts, not based on how we think or what we feel, but rather a methodology. We had a method that we used. A lot of people have asked about that, and we're going to go ahead and post that for everybody so you can see complete transparency how those decisions were made. We knew that wasn't going to be a perfect system. We knew that there were going to be some issues, maybe like yours. Maybe you guys got the wrong zoning by accident. That's a possibility. We have these office hour meetings to talk about it and discover that. We've had about 20 of these office hour meetings with various people who've asked for zoning changes. Guess what? A lot of them have gotten those changes, and we did make mistakes, and we recognize that. That's part of the process. You know, for example, in these office hour meetings, we have seen the impact of some of the way these rules come together on some properties, and it's made it clear to us that we need to make some changes. We need to make some adjustments like those I showed you a second ago. For example, maybe the MXR zoning district needs to clarify that people can do multi-tenant non-residential development in that district. That's permitted. You don't necessarily need to go to a GLC, a more intense commercial district, to do a multi-tenant shopping center. That's allowable in the MXR district that we're creating. So it's those kinds of discussions that lead to improvements and clarity in the project and help us find the errors and the mistakes that sometimes creep in because we're people, you know, we make mistakes. But let's say for the sake of argument that something happened that we didn't catch, right? Because it happens. Well, we're suggesting this omnibus map amendment process after adoption, where people can come in and request changes to the zoning map, and those are handled as a group quickly, efficiently, without charge, where your planning commission and you can consider the changes that are proposed on the table. we're hesitant to do that because we're not the legislative body. Okay, that's y'all. And some of these requests go beyond, oh, there was a mistake, or that's not quite how the interpretation worked. Some of these requests are subjective. They're choices, they're requests. And it's more appropriate for you and your planning board to consider those requests than us who are just applying a methodology, if that makes some sense. The point is, we wanted to build these safeguards into the process so that people weren't negatively impacted by the rules. We understand there's a lot of change here. We understand this is a new set of rules and a new set of things that are a little bit more complicated than what you've got, but they're not intended to, hurt you, take your development potential away. They're intended to promote your property value. They're intended to protect the environment. They're intended to protect the rural character that you guys said you wanted. We're taking that big red blotch and we're turning it into green, right? Because that's what the comp plan says. That's what you guys said you want. So that's what we're doing. And I understand that it's kind of like making sausage on the way. But we're happy that people are engaged, are participating, and we welcome, those discussions. So while this wasn't much of a presentation on module 2, I did want to take the chance to say some of this stuff to you guys so that you knew where we were coming from and where our heads are. We take to heart everything that you tell us, and we really are trying to move the ball in the direction that you're suggesting it go in. So as we move the ball down the field, January, we'll continue our review of the initial draft UDO and the map. In February, we'll make revisions. We'll complete the public draft of the UDO. We'll complete the 3rd revision to the zoning map. In March 10th, happy to post that public draft for everybody to see. And we look forward to the community's review. Intensive, lots of questions, lots of challenges, lots of changes. That's appropriate, and we expect that to happen. That'll continue through April. May, around May 5th, your planning board will make a recommendation, we hope. If they need 2 meetings, we've built in enough time for them to have 2 meetings, a 2nd meeting in May if they need it. The state requires your planning board to make a recommendation in this document, so that needs to happen. In June, we'll be back before you. Now, this isn't, it's not like you won't see us again until June. You'll see us many times, but in June, we'll be back for you, whether it's here or somewhere else, for your consideration of this. At this point, that's slated for June 11th. That date may work, may not. Maybe June 25th. We don't know. We do know it needs to happen before June 30th because we need to have the document adopted, if you're going to adopt it, by that date. Otherwise, the exemption the state has granted us goes away, and we are stuck with the big red blotch that's on your map. The omnibus map amendment process that I talked about before, where people can request changes for free, that starts after the adoption process, and the timing of that will work out as we go through. So that's a kind of thumbnail view, the contours of where we are, where we expect to go. The project goals, rural character, agriculture, the development that we do get be high quality. Those things haven't changed, and we continue to work towards that. And I hope that the material that we're releasing and that you're seeing is supporting that, and that you're hearing from the people that we're moving in the right direction. Sure, there's people who have questions. By gosh, let's talk. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
All right, could you address the Thibodeau situation with the half-acre lots now setting potentially an 1.5 acre? Just so they can leave with a little more information.
Sure, absolutely. The methodology that we used assigned zoning district designations based on a variety of features: lot size, current zoning, future land use map designation, and how the land is being used right now. Now, why that property that's MR30 with a 30,000 square foot lot got a designation for 1.5 acres, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look at the property. I'm not even sure where it is yet.
It's actually
LDR. Thank you. LDR is your kind of most dense single family district. Okay. And the LDR district was the MXR. I'm sorry, was the MR30 district. And we are attempting to translate your MR30 to the LDR. Now, refresh my memory, Mike, we're talking, I assume that the LDR district does permit a lot of that size.
Correct. I looked up the updated district and it basically is a translation of the MR30 low density residential. So it's not the 1.5 acre lots, it's the 0.69 acre.
So the Thibodeau's question is, what am I going to? You have 30,000 square foot lots today. You get 30,000 square foot lots under the new zoning ordinance. And we're happy to cover that in more detail.
It might be current, but it's still an ongoing moving process.
Yes, and I mean, I think it would be most appropriate for us to meet either offline or in an office hours meeting or on the phone or whatever, so that, you know, this conversation, so that we can all sit around a map and discuss.
Fair enough.
We're absolutely, we are not in the business of making the Thibodeau's or anybody else non-conforming or causing them problems. That is not what this is about.
Right. The screening on the, will that be a natural screening or can it be a fenced in screening? What's this gonna look like?
Great question. Great question. So your landscaping provisions in chapter 6 include within them a handful of different kinds of standards.
Okay.
One is perimeter buffers, okay, which would happen between different zoning districts. We also have a set of screening provisions that are applied to certain site features, like what? Like refuse containers, dumpsters, recycle bins, you know, outdoor storage, mechanical equipment. There's different levels of screening based on what it is that you're trying to screen. Okay. The things that are less intrusive are screened by vegetation. The things that are more intrusive, like generators, are screened by fences
Okay.
or walls.
Oh, I need to know. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
If I may, Mayor, I'll just quickly mention that before you leave, please, our planning and zoning director is going to give you his business card as well. And so we'll make sure that we can also connect with you and answer any questions that you all have.
And that goes for anyone in the audience or online that has any question about this. Now is the time to reach out so we can work through it and make sure everybody's comfortable with this moving forward. I got a crazy question, but it's been asked to me and I think it needs to be brought up. Accessory dwellings. Could it work in reverse? You've got a family that grew up here.
Mhm.
The kids move off, went to college.
Sure.
They was raised in, let's just say 1,000 square foot home.
Mhm.
But they're sitting on, say, 4 acres of land. All of a sudden, the parents are older. One of the kids in the family want to move back to Mills River, build a nice big house.
Mhm.
Beside mom or dad's or both small house.
Mhm.
Could it be that the small house now becomes the accessory dwelling? Because don't we have a restriction in there that you can't build another? I mean, potentially, we're just trying to keep from,
Sure.
say,
Sure.
leave it all the land combined, not cut out another lot.
As long as the new home that's built is of an order of magnitude in size large enough so that the small house still meets the threshold requirements for
Okay.
an accessory dwelling unit, the answer is heck yes.
Okay, that answers that one. Okay.
I got a question on the height,
Hmm.
the 2-story. Would it not be easier or more black and white to just do a foot, like it's X number of feet to the top gutter or something? Because
It will have both.
you
We'll
could
have both.
have a ceiling or a 14-foot ceiling.
Indeed, indeed. Right. We will have both. And it's possible that there might be a range, but that's one of the reasons why we put a story in there, because it's another parameter that, you know, we want to set you guys up for success in terms of your flexibility here. Because not every situation's the same.
Yeah, with our topo here, it's
Yes.
a little different than flatland buildings. So
Mhm.
I run into it a lot just in the buildings because we're allowed so much from the front door elevation
Right.
to max height.
Right. Right. And depending upon which way your lot slopes, that could work for you or against you.
Yes,
Right.
depending on which way your house is
Right.
facing. Yeah. Very much so.
Got one other
Yes.
on rum. We're not gonna apply that at the body. You have to ask that.
Yes, sir.
That's a one time or later on my 10-year-old became 18 and now I want to do a shot behind.
Right.
So
That's
here for now, I can ask to become into.
so you can always do the shop behind as long as it meets the, the home occupation or accessory kinds of standards that are in place, no matter whether you're in the rum district or anywhere else. The question about the rum district is a good one. Is that a district that when somebody asks for it, we would allow changes to that district, to that lot in that district years from now in the future? That's a question that we'd like to ask you guys. Do you want this rum district to be a one-time thing that happens before we kind of go through this process, right? Those rum districts stay on the ground. We don't take them away, but we don't allow new land to be zoned to rum in the future. That's a question that we have for you. It's a policy matter. We have a variety of different techniques of accommodating mixed use throughout this ordinance, but the rum was a recognition that people were confused about that. Our desire is not to negatively impact people who are here now. There are sufficient tools to handle those kinds of requests in the future, but in the interest of making sure that people didn't feel like we were potentially hurting them by this process, we're suggesting the rum district be added. As a policy matter, this body and your steering committee and your planning board can weigh in on their views about this. We need to think through, does rum become something that can be changed 10 years from now, or would you have to rezone to one of the other zoning districts? So we'll look forward to having that, that discussion with you guys going forward. It is a great question.
Or something to think about is maybe making it a conditional zoning.
Right.
So that you can ask for that 10 years from now, but it would only be for the use that you bring forward.
Right.
And then
Great suggestion.
if it changes.
Right.
Something like
Great
that.
suggestion.
But it would follow in line, at least for right now, with our timeline of don't know how long after we're gonna allow map changes, but that would go along with it.
That could happen then too. Yes. Yes, absolutely. During the omnibus text amendment sort of package, assumedly a person who was seeking rum could ask for it at that time. We would suggest that you honor those requests during that window of time immediately after adoption.
How long is that period of time normally?
The usual rezoning process is usually about a 3-month process, okay, start to finish. We would suggest 2 rounds of this, maybe 3 rounds, but certainly 2. So you're looking at a 6 to 9 month window.
I think the bigger areas we're trying to work with here, that's gonna be needed.
Well, we're 4 months in and we're hearing new, so
Yeah. And this
I
for the,
think we should err on the side of time.
Sure. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's y'all's discretion. You can, if 9's not enough, you can go to 12.
we just didn't know if there's any state.
No,
requirements
no limitation.
To lock it down at a certain.
Y'all's discretion,
Okay,
your discretion.
what else it's got? Okay. I look
Thank you.
forward to hearing back from the community on this. I really want to keep everybody giving all the input in. That's the only way we're gonna get what y'all want and need. And we're here to try to make sure it happens the way y'all want.
You're gonna do a postcard for the next Milford School,
All right.
the meeting in March. We're gonna do another postcard or is there?
So as of right now, the postcard was designed as an evergreen postcard, so it kind of outlined on the back the different months and the major topics. So as of right now, the plan is to continue to use imaginemillsriver.com through the QR code and that opportunity, as well as through our other social media channels to try to push that, as well as our newsletter, et cetera. There's no plan currently of any other postcard. However, again, it's if council believes that it would be helpful to do a secondary postcard specifically on that item, that's something that obviously we can entertain.
I would say the best resource we got is the people in this room and the people online, to reach out to all your neighbors, all your church members, get a hold of everybody, let them know what's going on, make sure they're aware of it, make sure they're aware of how big of a agenda item this really is for the livelihood of Mills River moving forward and the residents of Mills River. Not only that, but the people traveling through it, it's going to affect them some as well.
To Councilmember Cantrell's point, you did mention the school as well. I did not mention this earlier, but we did print off flyers for both elementary schools physical flyers were passed out, in the classroom or divvied out to the classrooms to be passed out as well as pushed electronically through their, electronic notification system. Also evergreen in the sense of trying to outline what's going to be happening over the next few months, but also has the QR code and link for people to be able to access that as well. If I may, real quick, Chad, just for confirmation, people in the room and watching, the draft zoning map that we've been talking about tonight and the potential changes and that's on the wall over there, that is on
Yes, sir.
imaginemillsriver.com right now. For
Yes,
people
sir.
to look at.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, when are y'all getting out of town?
Well, we're probably heading out as soon as we can since we heard it's time to go.
I was just making sure it wasn't a tomorrow evening kind of thing.
Indeed.
Thank y'all. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, appreciate y'all. Be careful.
you.
If council so wishes to move to that, to the rest of the quarterly update item, we would just need a motion to,
Okay,
pick up from the table. Is that correct?
yes, someone make a motion to, put us back.
I have a word for tonight. I make a motion that we untable the quarterly report and pick that back up.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Hearing none.
Don't we enjoy that idea of when that Robert rule created, they literally had to take the document, put it onto the table, and physically pick it
Bring it
back up.
back.
All right, well, thank you, council, for your understandings with both the public safety partners coming in, having that brief update, and then also for our UDO consultants to be able to get out as quickly as they could.
Sure.
With the impending weather. The Julie Osteen, our finance director, is in front of us to kick us up through the financial update portion. But just as a reminder, this is something new that we've started this fiscal year. It's really a true quarterly update on our financial health, where we're currently at, any potential issues and concerns to be looking at. It's really important right now as we really prepare for budgetary discussions that will be coming up sooner rather than later. And then this is through December 31st as a reminder, so there's a little bit of movement. And then also giving an update, I think, for both council and also for the community about those major projects and initiatives that council put forward as priorities within the FY26 budget. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this information with you, and I'm going to kick it over to Julie to help show us our financial health so far.
Thank you. Council, it's my privilege, excuse me, I do have laryngitis. I've been dealing with flooring in my basement, and the mold and the dust got to me this week, so just bear with my voice. The first things that I just want to bring to your attention on the page 4 of the slide, Kevin. if
There you
can
go,
move
right.
there. Is the tax collector report for December 31st. As of December 31st, we had collected 79.71% of the levy for 2025. Of that $786,000 that was outstanding as of December 31st, $625,200 of that came in between January the 1st through yesterday. So most of that is now not due. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So we're down to $160,000 on the levy. But one question that was posed was, of that $786,000, what was the breakdown of that? And a little over 500,000 of that was property taxes. 240,000 was personal property, and there was about $11,800 of utility taxes from the utilities that was outstanding. And again, like I said, 625,000 of that has already come in and been paid. If you look at the next slide that she also provided you, this is just an update on where we are in the total levy itself. We have collected 94.91% of that levy as of December 31st versus 93.25% last year at the same time. So we just wanted to make you aware that we are ahead of last year, even though the bills got out a month late. On the actual revenue versus budgeted amounts, you will see that there are 3 items there that are at 100% of collection. And those are items that have either already been received in full based on what we budgeted. For example, the PAL bill, we get those in 2 disbursements in September and December. So we have received 100% of what we are eligible for on the PAL bill. Streets, we have received 100% of the grant funds that were for the accessible playground. So those have come in. And then the lease agreement you see is 191%, and that is due to the fact that the county had to request an extension on that lease for the mulch pile. So we actually received more than we originally anticipated because they had to extend that. On this slide, you will see that the property taxes here collected are at 82%, and that is because the total collection includes registered motor vehicles, which the county collects for us in solely by them on our behalf. And so from a financial standpoint, we have to include that. So that's why my number is slightly higher than the tax collector's percentage of 79%, because it includes the registered motor vehicles. And then you'll notice that the sales tax numbers are only at 29%. And just as a reminder, sales tax always runs 3 months in arrears. So you have not collected for September, October, November, and December yet. So that only actually reflects through September 30 on your sales tax collections. On the expenditures, you will notice that the majority of the expenditure lines are below our budgeted anticipated amounts at the middle part of the year, with the exception of the capital reserve and economic development. We have already remitted to our capital reserve funds 100% of what council designated to go into those funds. So that shows at 100% there. And the economic development, we have already fully funded the ag business donation, as well as the HCPED contribution that council requested be included in the budget. The other item that I want to bring to your attention, the only other area that has a slight increase over 50% is the information technology. Most of the software costs that we have to do are paid in July for the entire year. So we have to pre-fund those the beginning of the year. So that's why that looks slightly over budget as of December 31st. On your fund balance commitments, if you remember in the first quarter report, our fund balance percentage was at 65%, with the additional collection of the property taxes that has increased 2%. So our estimated available is 67% of our total fund balance of $10.7 million. Of that, 1.7 million is capital reserve funds, which are the funds that council has designated for the park expansion, as well as the future town hall expansion. There's $1.7 million of restricted fund balance, which we are required to leave as restricted. And that is made up of the Powell bill funds that we get from the state that are used for streets, sidewalks, and those type of expenditures. We also are required by state law to restrict a portion of our fund balance to represent the amount based on our audit of what could be needed to cover operating expenses in a year that we are low. And that restricted state statute amount is $650,000, just for your record. And then we also have the $222,000 worth of the linked cash flow loans that are restricted for those FEMA expenses. So that's what makes up the two largest pots there outside of the unrestricted, $4.8 million of fund balance. And then, I have updated your 3-year comparison, in the revenues. If you remember from first quarter, the interest in investments, in 2023, that number was budgeted only for $45,000. And so you had received well in excess of that by December. So that's why that line looks skewed, as well as the program fees for the park were also budgeted on the lower, more conservative line, and you had already exceeded that as well. The rest of those line items you can see there. The lease agreement was the first year for this, was this year with Henderson County leasing that property. So that's why there's nothing there in prior years. But everything else is fairly consistent between 23, 24, and 25. On the expenditures, you can see they're mostly, again, fairly consistent, except in the economic development. In 24, 25, you use some of the ARPA funds to cover some of the economic development expenditures that you approved as council to expend. So that's why that looks high there. The debt service and the capital outlay was the purchase of some property back in 2023. And then you can see this year and in 2024, the capital reserve was completely funded by December of this year, as well as in 24. And that is all I have. Did you want to do the capital project and the polling expenses?
By all means, with the capital projects.
Okay.
You're on a roll. You're doing a great job, Julie.
So this slide here shows you the items that council had given staff direction on, things that they wanted done in 25, 26. You can see that the walls and the carpet are complete in here. All the painting and everything is done for the carpet and town hall repainting. And that came in about $40,000 below what we had anticipated. We also were able to complete the copier replacement at $11,500 versus what the original estimate of $20,000 was. The UDO, we just have received one invoice from them, so that's why we only have $21,000 of expense there. On the sewer monitoring system, that was actually below budget. We got it for about $400 less than the $3,000 that council had budgeted for that item. And then the hydro seeder for the park came in just slightly under $2,000 below budget. The other items are slated for Q3 and Q4. The basketball court and the Hickory shelter will have to be done after it starts warming back up in the spring. And then I'm gonna let you speak on holy.
Julie, can I ask you one question before you get up? On that capital reserve. So we pulled out 1.7 million and rolled into our operating account at one time. Is that what we did?
So we actually have its own separate account that have those funds in it, and it's
Okay.
earning interest.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just didn't want us to be shifting money around.
No,
The
sir.
interest
It
good
is
as-
designated in its own account.
Okay.
And it's being tracked monthly and allocated based on a percent to total,
Okay.
to interest on those
And
line
that
items.
interest is a decent rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Any other questions?
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And as we move through this process, I just want to say that with Julie and Nicole and Mike back there as well, that I'm going to be leaning on them in case I say something wrong as we move forward. So if there's a question I can't answer, we'll make sure they come up here as well. But I really want to thank everybody, the entire staff, for their hard work so far. And I hope you see that within the presentation that I'm about to present. A lot of words on the screen. I'm not going to read them all to you. but essentially in Q2, category A is focused on storm debris. So FEMA, as a reminder, has certain categories for how they look at projects and cleanup. Storm debris cleanup, we formally moved the Cat A storm debris that we've been working so hard on to try to capture within the northern loop, the North Loop area in the meadow, and move that to an incidental project as part of the permanent repair. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more down in Cat G, because essentially when it's not storm debris anymore, there's set new requirements, different requirements that then, that fall within a different category, which is Cat G. There are a couple of items that are still left that are truly Cat A back there that we cannot count as incidental to the major to that kind of work. And we're working right now to identify the best approach for moving forward with that. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with FEMA and our Cat A PDMG, which is the designee to help us with Cat A projects, to talk through what that looks like. But relatively small. Hearing myself in the background is jarring. I'm sorry you all have to hear me talk. But I will say, so just as there are a couple of trees and a couple of like larger stumps that have to now go under Cat A, but again, relatively minor compared to what we were looking at before. Category B in Q2, there are no remaining actions. That all was handled in Q1, and I really want to thank everybody involved in making that happen. That's that emergency manager's piece. Cat C and Cat D, as a reminder for council, we through the on-call engineering services, TRC engineering firm won the RFQ to help us with all of our repair, with our FEMA repair work. They're finalizing the proposed scope of work for that. And in fact, actually hot off the presses today, we got that scope of work in our inboxes to start reviewing. Basically looking at the damages and the potential replacement opportunities on the culverts that were a part of the damage report back in April. And so once those items are reviewed, essentially we take that scope of work, it gets stamped, it gets sealed, and there's a seal put on it from the engineering firm, and then that's submitted to FEMA for their review of that to make sure that there are no issues, concerns, et cetera. And so that's that process. When we have the reimbursement process, we go and then we ask for the money back. This process, we're trying to, get their approval, the money to us, then do that project. And so and in fact, that is flagged in my inbox. It came in, I think, this afternoon. So they had a lot of good reading this weekend. I tell you, I've never seen a 179-page culvert report, so I'm excited to dive into it. Cat E buildings. Basically, FEMA has now finished that review. So things such as, any type of damages that happened in this building, the maintenance building, any type of our building facilities. There's a little bit of a minor difference. So one of the things you do is that you put in estimates for FEMA, where we put in estimates with our insurance company. They reimbursed us what those estimates are. The numbers came in just a little bit higher. So right now we're just in that little bit of that process of cleaning that up with the insurance company. And in fact, I believe that's going to be finished up tomorrow, and they'll be able to move forward with that. So it's about a $6,000 discrepancy, very minor, but we're hopefully done with it very shortly. Cat F utilities. We did receive FEMA approval, as you can see, for the sewer pump replacement. So as very quickly during the storm, essentially we had the sewer pumps out here go down. We were able to get a temporary replacement to keep us going, got a new one to replace the other one, and then that temporary one fell. So basically we have two new pumps. And so working through that, totaling, as you can see, $15,000. We also worked, as a reminder, on the dairy back there. We have a well pump there, and there was a well house. There is now a part of a well house. Well, we have confirmed that the well pump is operational. So we put that into our CATA, a little bit of monies around making sure that that's operational. And right now, in fact, we're in the process of identifying through our procurement process, someone to come out and help rebuild the well house itself. So hopefully we'll be moving that in Q3. Last, certainly not least, Cat G for us. There's a little bit of a park around us. So a lot of the damages that we had obviously happened within this Cat G parks, grounds, and features. So just a couple of quick updates. the tennis court project remains an appeal with FEMA. So essentially, FEMA denied the tennis court replacement and repair. We had 60 days to appeal it. They have 90 days to tell us whether or not that that appeal process is approved or not. But we're not waiting for that. So an opportunity came up through the Office of State Budget and Management for a grant opportunity, and we were successful in receiving those funds to go ahead and move forward with that. Now, little bit of back and forth. If FEMA comes back and says, "Hey, it actually is approved," we're just pass the money back to OSBM, and if it's denied, then we can obviously keep moving forward as is. So and so as you can see here, I plan on bringing the OSBM grant before council at the February 12th meeting. This is an item that needs to come before you all for approval. A couple other items. The expansion property, as you can see back there, is still within this environmental review period back there. And then so I'm hoping that gets to moving pretty soon. We've started to see a little bit of movement. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we have, that we're going to get some positive news for some of the work that needs to happen on the expansion property. We did have, so now shifting to, I know what's on a lot of people's minds is again, that river access. We have said since the beginning, council has been very clear on this, about getting river access opened as fast as possible for the community. And so we continue to have conversations with TRC weekly, if not more than weekly, to make sure that we are on track to make sure that we meet the deadline of a late spring, early summer opening of river access. River access is phase 1, and then we're going to be focusing on the meadow restoration in phase 2, because we know we want to make sure people can get back into the river. I want to be able to dip my feet in the river, and I know a lot of other people do too. And so that's where that focus is going to be. There was a little delay just because of the holidays and that's some extra survey work. But if you're out here at the park and you see people walking around with vests on, looking like they're doing some important work with things that with tools that I've never seen before, they're probably surveyors helping us on those projects. So the next item that you see on there, we're challenging the parking lot funds. So back with the boat launch and the parking lot, essentially FEMA came in. Sometimes we're really surprised at how much money they think they're going to, that project deserves. And sometimes it's pretty sad and woeful. And so right now for the parking lot, we're challenging that cost, and we're trying to work through, trying to understand what the true cost of that gravel lot looks like. And so we're working on that right now in Q3. And then we're also working on preparing a scope of work for the boat launch that's in comp. So again, council gave us the direction on how to move forward with that. And we're looking right now at some minor potential changes in the sense of the grading for people to be able to get into the river. But again, staying within the footprint, staying within the hazard prevention ordinance to make sure that we adhere to that ordinance as well. And so those are things that will be coming up by the end of Q3. As you can see here, for this work so far with the North Loop project itself, specifically river access in the meadow, surveying, design, permitting, and construction management. So up to bidding was signed. That contract is up to, like I said, was signed for $85,500. And so as a reminder for council and for the community, the 90,000 threshold is when it comes publicly here. I have made a promise to you all, and I will continue to make this promise that at these quarterly meetings, any contracts of substantial amount will be coming before you for your knowledge, information, and for your questions. When we get to the next phase, which is the bidding portion of this part, I suspect, depending on how many phases that is, it's going to potentially hit that threshold that's going to be coming before council prior to moving forward. The last item here, I really just wanted to bring forward an item that I think is worthy of discussion and for council guidance. I'm not looking for an answer of yes, we want this now or not. With FEMA approving the tennis court, which is right here behind us, right behind me, it has to go back in its location exactly where it is, within, some parameters. But it's basically that scope of work is replacing the tennis court, unless we ask for an alternate project, which we did not. The OSBM grant provides more flexibility. So as we're going to talk about a little bit later on, the park expansion project's coming up, the maintenance facility project is coming up, et cetera. We have the ability to at least consider the future of the tennis court and its location. If council is open to it, and right now from my perspective, there's no guiding with any recommendations, is through the design phase of the park expansion, would council be interested in seeing a potential layout where the tennis court may be in a different location based off of the programming needs and opportunities based off of that new plan? If doing so, obviously that would create an opportunity here with this property here, where, as you mentioned before, town hall expansion being one opportunity, as well as any other opportunities for programming. So I'll pause there.
If council was to entertain the idea of moving it, I would like to see the Carlin's blessing, because all that was donated to this town. The town has not one red dollar in that, except for just overseeing some engineering funds. So I feel like they put the money out years ago. If they're okay with moving it, I'd just like to see their blessing, because they was gracious enough to come out of pocket with several $100,000 back in the day.
Understood.
I don't think it'd be a problem. I think they deserve at least the opportunity to say, moving it's fine.
Understood. Any other council members? I'm just trying to get a pulse. And just for clarification, the idea is just, I suspect through this process, there's going to be a lot of potential design phases. And if it is the desire to keep it there no matter what, it actually just locks in that conversation and makes it easier for potential planning versus.
I understand
Yeah.
that 100%.
Okay.
I'm open to it. I mean, because if we're going to expand this building, we're obviously not going that way. We can't go that way because I think the sewer line's on that side. So that's your best spot.
Okay. I see head nod to that. Am I reading the room correctly that there's a general consensus to at least entertain that preliminary discussion?
If we could just get Nicole or somebody to reach out just to get their blessing, it would just be a smoother flow, because we're good neighbors in Mills River. We want to let everybody that was gracious enough to donate that kind of funds to be part of the situation.
Understood. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Any other questions about FEMA projects before I move on? I know that's a lot of information. I'll just say that we continue to meet pretty much weekly with FEMA, and then the conversations that we have with each other is pretty much daily about FEMA projects. So we're getting there.
So, Matt, I know we're having all these conversations and all, but at what point are we just gonna move forward, pull the trigger and spend our money? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
'Cause, I mean, you know what I know. I mean, we're getting, the whole county, the whole Western North Carolina is getting shamboozled with this deal federally. So I feel like our residents, we just need to go ahead, get off our coffers and get this thing fixed. And then if we don't get it back, we don't get it back. And then we can use that for political pull, when the next election comes. I mean, I reached out personally to Chuck Edwards and not getting any responses. I don't know who else to go to, I'm supposed to meet with, Kyle Lauder to see if Senator Budd can have any pull on the Senate side. So I'm meeting with him next week. But this whole thing, the counties, you heard what I heard at the LGCCA. They spent 48 million, and I think they've got back 15.7 or something like that.
I don't remember the number off the top, but it's
similar.
It's a shocking number.
So the ratio is similar. So it's all the Western North Carolinas in the same shape. And if we sit around and just keep trying to figure this out and dot the i's and cross the t's, sometimes I don't know if it's worth it or not.
Understood. And I appreciate that, Mayor. The one thing that the largest dollar amount figure obviously is the Northern Loop cleanup. And so from that perspective, we suspect, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cleanup that is going to be needed back in that area. And so as council's direction, going that reimbursement route is that strategy to make sure we're moving quicker. The decision so far has been where we, for instance, like the tennis courts, where we know, they're usable, but we know that they need to be repaired and replaced. Or the baseball field, for instance, with the drainage on the back, we know that it needs to be worked on, and yet the field can continue to be used. We've been trying to hedge a little bit with extending those funds. However, to your point, at some point we were going to be needing to move forward. Nicole and I have been chatting as well about there's certain seasons, obviously, for when this work needs to be done. And so I think, especially over the next month or so, being really able to determine whether or not we need to go forth and bring that forward as a recommendation.
Okay,
Yes.
and I may try to get you to sit in when me and Kyle's meeting. I'm hoping to get him to come here. So you can ask some of these questions that I'm not aware of what might need to happen to get things moving a little quicker.
Mhm.
So I'll let you know when that's going to happen. And we're supposed to have it Tuesday, but we bumped it out a little bit here for this weather situation.
Yes, sir. Happy
Okay.
to.
Could we find out or get some clarity from FEMA too, if we're allowed to push off the northern loop and do some form of maintenance work while we're waiting on this? Or if it's a truly, absolutely can't touch it, what the feel is there, are we gonna not get a penny back if we go down there and flip it off a foot tall?
Mhm.
I just hate to go two growing seasons of weeds. There's woody stem stuff there already.
Mhm. Understood. If you're amenable to it, Councilmember Cantrell, I would have to pull up the timeline with TRC as well. But the idea originally was to try to time it in such a way where we wouldn't have to use resources to cut down the back and then for it to then be removed, within 30 days or 45 days later. However, that point is well taken, and it's something that I think we need to consider for sure.
Yeah, I just hate for the 30 days to turn into summer.
I agree.
For it to bring back up and then go.
One of the things that we may do, if it pleases council, is I'm happy to talk to TRC to see, as a part of their scope of work, is also to prioritize taking care of at least the initial vegetation on the meadow as well. As a part of that, again, making sure that we're not touching the prioritization of the river, but if there's a way to see if we can bump that into that first phase as well. And if not, then we as a staff can get together and talk about alternatives. Because as I mentioned, yes, to your point, going into the summer is not an option for that back area.
I would like to see that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
What all you have?
Oh, unfortunately, I got some more, Mayor. That's why I let
I'll keep listening.
everyone else go first. Now we're just going to look at some departmental highlights just for your purposes. This is something, again, we're going to try to start building in. So you're going to see Q2 updates, and hopefully you're going to see more and more completed. Q3, you're going to see more completed. So implementing a new payroll system, we did kick that off with our HR consultants, Craft HR, in Q2, and we're looking at recommendations. Again, I think it's going to be a much cheaper option than that 10,000 that's budgeted in FY26. So we're excited about that option. Implementing community comms tools in coordination with our partners. In Q2, we received 6 donated radios and allotted 2 long-range radios from the 2 long-range radios were from Mills River Fire and Rescue. The 6 donated radios were from Kimball Communications. The town also, as I mentioned, purchased a Starlink for Town Hall. In fact, it's already mounted. It's on the back, and we tested it last night to make sure that it is ready to go in cases of emergencies, and I'm excited to say it worked. The AV system in the conference room, I know that it continues to be a hot topic, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. It's something that I know can be very frustrating for all involved listening, as well as for us here. We have created these temporary solutions here, which I think right now it's working to at least with sound. However, the moment we had this conversation in Q2, we started our procurement process to try to find 3 people to come in, 3 firms to come in to help us with a more appropriate solution and try to move that forward. In fact, I believe we're in the process of vetting them right now. The evaluate communications tools for town outreach in Q2. we joined the county's Rave Wireless contract, and so I was happy to provide that update to you all this evening. Deployment, like I said, was slated for early Q3, and then due to launch delays and to be completely honest, also launching around the holidays, I didn't think was appropriate. However, I was hoping a little bit earlier in Q3 than today, than the last couple of days or today. But I'm excited that it's up and that we're able to utilize it. I am in discussions, and we are in discussions with Mills River Fire Rescue as well as a potential partner to use that as well, because we think anytime we can partner with our public safety partners, that it's going to be beneficial for the town. The cost was $3,500. It's a $3,500 annual cost with a $500 one-time cost, so it's about $1,000 less than what we had budgeted for. Community survey, the RFP, the request for proposal is in its final draft. I'm very excited about it. We're going to be kicking it off in Q3. We're going to be using the strategic plan as at least the initial outline for what the community survey looks like and bring that forward to council. My hope is that there's a launch date in June or July on that. So we're going to be working very quickly on that timeline. Just came up the other day, the last meeting about council salary studies. We've already started that work in Q3. It was already on the list, and we're happy to bring that forward. So we're going to have conversations and visiting about that as well. And then, as we've already talked about, the town hall painting and upkeep, it was total just under $82,000 paid in Q2, and we're excited to be walking on new floors and seeing new paint colors. Parks and Rec. The park accessibility project, the final cost, as you can see here, was a little over $324,000. It was completed. And we are still awaiting the final. No, not anymore. It's been updated. Thank you. Yes, we've received it. We've talked about a little bit of space needs for town hall and the assessment. We're still waiting on that, and we're looking at that as a part of that larger park expansion project. The study of Hooper Lane paving, that was also a priority that was discussed. And however, right now we're looking at potentially moving that. There's no real update for Q2. There's been a couple other priorities going on. Last, certainly not least, the creating scholarships opportunities for programming. This is for our Parks and Recreation programming that we offer. We're going to be talking about it. The recommendation is through our visioning items with council coming up in February. And for planning and zoning, the land preservation program, we were very excited. We thought that we had our first application going in there. Unfortunately, it fell through. The owner wanted to go a different direction. We understand that. It's perfectly understandable. And we know that's going to happen. We love that this is an opportunity for property owners, but we're committed to trying to get the word out, especially going into Q3. The committee met in December, as you can see, to talk about how we can communicate that out with others. And we're going to be looking at potential engagement opportunities in FY27. UDO and land use code update. I really don't know if I need to talk much about this since we talked about it today, but we're continuing to work through it, and I appreciate everybody's efforts. Town traffic schedule update and build out. We are in the process. When I say we, the DOT is in the process of completing that study. We're excited to get our hands on that study. We believe it's going to be happening sooner rather than later, sometime in Q3, and bringing that forward for discussion. I think there have been a lot within the community asking about that traffic schedule, and we're excited to see the results. Last but certainly not least, we've already talked about basketball court resurfacing. We talked a little bit about basketball court resurfacing and the epoxy floors within the financial part of this. Slated for Q4 for the basketball court, just because of the weather. Slated for Q3 and completion for the Hickory shelter, again, based off the timeline that we have already set out. So that's still on time based off of what we were originally planning. The two big ones next are the park expansion park expansion project and the park maintenance facility and up that, as council knows, we went on-call engineering services to help us to determine, potential needs within the town. Withers Ravenel was selected through that service to help us look at the full multi-phased approach, because we know it's going to be a multi-phased approach for this park expansion property. And so my goal is to bring forward that scope of work for you all, hopefully at the February 12th meeting. In fact, we're in conversations right now, trying to finalize what that scope of work potential looks like. And then the studies are going to start immediately after that. Again, when the council provides that direction, and we are ready to hit the ground running. Park maintenance facility and upfit, as well. As you can see, we've spent $48,000 of the $150,000 that's budgeted. That's really for the needs assessment piece, because we only want to know what we need now and what we need in the future. We've taken council's direction to heart on the potential of an expandable type property, the ability to build as the park grows, the ability to work within that as well. So they're working through what that can look like. That's starting in Q3. Draft design is the end of Q4. As a reminder, this was a priority in FY26 to try to get to the design phase by the end of FY26, and we are still on track for that. In fact, this is a Q3 update, but just it's hot off the presses. We had to come. We actually met today because we have so many projects that are going on with FEMA, park expansion, and the maintenance facility. They're in different time spans. They're in different funding sources. There's grant opportunities. All of the above. We actually got together for essentially a true kickoff of all the engineering firms and the town leadership team in order to get together, make sure we're kicking off correctly, and that we're all speaking with one language moving forward. And I just want to report that it went very well, and that the engineering firms are committed to working with us to make sure that we're working lock in step. My main point to them, and I just think it's important for you all to know, is that we don't want to duplicate services. First and foremost, being good fiscal stewards of the taxpayer money. And that's what we're committed to doing. That's why the kickoff happened today. And that we're going to keep that honest moving forward through our scopes of work. That's all that I had. I know that it was a lot, but I'm just very excited about all the work that the town and the work that the team that's sitting over here beside me, and the team that's hopefully maybe not watching at home, maybe eating dinner, has done over the last quarter and the last year so far. I really appreciate all their hard work, and we have a great staff, and we're very excited about what's going to be happening over the next 2 quarters. Happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions? That's all other business. Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our regular.
Make a motion to adjourn regular meeting.
Looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor?
Uh,
We get 5 minutes.
And we'll take a 5-minute break before we go into our business portion of this deal.
Oh, and folks, thank y'all
So, Matt, when you get established and back ready there, we'll go over the discussion on the fire, inspections.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor and Council, and I'm sorry that you have to immediately go back into having a presentation for me and not have someone else talk. So this item came up as a request from council at the last council meeting, I believe, where there was wanting to be a discussion on fire inspections for FY 27. And so really, this is the staff report really just lays out kind of what the FY 26 memorandum of understanding lays out, which was $100 flat fee flat rate per occupancy, regardless of the size of the occupancy. Then when looking through it, it was 327 for the town of Mills River. We had budgeted 32,000. Obviously, that would have been 32,700. We're talking with them. We kept it within the line item of 32,000 even for FY 26. And so in my in the backup, you'll see that really the MOU covers for plan review, new construction inspections, annual fire safety inspections, and any re-inspections, as well as fire investigations. The MOU does state that in order to break or to potentially move away if we so wanted to, if council's wishes were that, is that there would be a 1-year notice for that type of separation. And so there's one element there now, changes, tweaks, etc.
Matt, can I
Yes,
stop
sir.
you right there just a second?
Of course.
If they're wanting a 1 year for us to get out of it, why didn't we get a 1 year that there's gonna apply it? Did we get the 1 year to apply it? I
No, sir.
thought this was all in our Henderson County Mills River local, thing that we had, our agreement, our local agreement we had going on.
The general interlocal
Yeah,
agreement.
we may need to put that on a future agenda item to go through that real close and see what all's in there and what ain't in there.
Sure, I understand. Yes, sir.
I've dealt with this in the past and these cartoons drawn about it,
Mhm.
in the newspaper, but we have got to figure this out. We've got a good relationship with the county right now, and I'd like to keep it. But at the same time, $32,000 when it's been done year after year after year after year after year, and then all of a sudden we get a new manager and I feel like they just slid it in here on you. And and I'll have the same argument at the county commissioner's office about it.
Well, I appreciate that, Mayor. I would say that this is not geared towards Mills River. Mills River was not the only conversation that was there. Laurel Park is involved in it, and Flat Rock as well. It was all municipalities that use Henderson County were brought in at the same time for the same discussions within the same timeline.
Okay.
And so I can't speak for any other type of intent, but I would say it was across the board conversation. Yes, to your point, we did not have a 1-year notice of this change. It was, I believe, if my memory serves me, in January when we were brought in to the potential of, and then I believe it was within a couple of months, because I believe even when we met for visioning, we did not have a clear understanding of what the potential final decision would be. The final decision happened. We had a budgeted amount to try to prepare ourselves for that. But yes, to your point, it
I
was,
just feel like John Mitchell as the county manager and the county commissioners would see us eye to eye on that one right now, that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They give us limited time to prepare for a $32,000 bill. Yes, we got it, and they know we got it, but I think it's only fair if we got a year to opt out of anything, we should get a year to get involved in anything with them. I think we should have that kind of relationship between the two parties.
I understand. I will say, any modifications to the MOU, that modification, including potential termination, there would be a 90-day notice that's built within that. And I'm sure if it's council direction to try to entertain a shift to that timeline of that separation, that's something that we can notify the county for. From my understanding, I have not received any notice to date on any potential increases on what that flat rate looks like. It is my understanding, however, that that this is the county's direction uh, fire inspections moving forward for municipalities in which they serve. There was a question at the last time about whether or not Mills River Fire and Rescue would be interested in this. I've in talking with the chief, and I dare not put words in his mouth, but my understanding from that is, would there be potential interest? Yes. Is there the potential for doing it anytime soon under the current structure? No. And you're looking at potentially $120,000 or $130,000 for a position full time for any type of person with the credentials in order to do this full time. So in fact, from the perspective of the shared cost structure across other municipalities, our share of that is 32,000, and it's still, even when adding them all up, does not equate to that value.
Did we get a list of how many people they did inspect?
So we have, I got the list of all 327 occupancies, and they stated that that all of them are up into compliance. So
Okay.
in the annual review, we received the bill. I believe it was in November. Thank you, Julie. I always know if I'm about to throw a financial question, I'll just look at Julie. Sure.
The bad thing about this is a lot of these things are biannual inspections, or I mean, only inspected every 2 years. I probably said
Sure.
that wrong. So you see what I'm saying? It depends on the use of the facility. So, you know, if they're sticking us with that 32,000 a year and that's what gives me heartburn. I just want to
So-
be fair.
So absolutely. And one of the questions I've asked for them to clarify on, and again, it's been within the last couple of weeks, the state mandated minimums. So you have the different levels, the annual review all the way down to that every 3 years. So, you know, a convenience store may be every 2 or 3 years, but your hospital needs to be reviewed annually. And so trying to have a better understanding of how they're looking at their state mandated minimum requirements going into future years. So I suspect if they're going to be using the state mandated minimum, I'm expecting the value to go down, the monetary value to go down next year, because to your point, Mayor, not everyone needs to be inspected every year unless it is the county's direction to do it annually, which is something, again, we could potentially talk with them about.
Yeah. I just don't want this to be one stepping stone. I already feel like we're supplementing big time the sheriff's department for added services that we need to still be a town. And then we're collecting for the fire department, passing that money through. And now we got this burden of these fire inspections. They must remember that we are county taxpayers as well as Mills River town taxpayers. They have some obligation to the citizens of this town to fulfill their duties and not be just passing this buck on along for us to figure out how to pay for it and possibly raise taxes. So that's not going to be my argument, even if I have to go out there in front of them, you know, use my 3 minutes of public comment. But we've done this before. We've subbed it out. We got it done very proficiently and for minimal money. And I had to go out there then and show them. And then the very next year it went away and it slipped back in here now. So I do have a lot of heartburn with this. I don't want this just to be something that, because I'm getting out of here. I just want everybody to pay attention. You've got to see it coming and try to nip it in the bud. You know, John Mitchell's awesome county manager. And I think if we can spend a little time, talk to him, go through our interlocal agreement between the Mills River and the county and make sure we know what all's in that, look it through good and make sure we're covered what we think was covered. You know, they keep every bit of our county permit money. Any solid waste money that gets hauled from the residents of Mills River that had to be paid, they keep all that. So there's a lot that people might not realize that they're collecting revenues on the people of Mills River besides the taxes being paid. And they're providing us a service, but they are getting monies for that. So I just want to make sure that we keep this in check. And if this is the way to go with the council, then it's the way to go. But if not, we need to sit down at the table at some point and talk to somebody about getting this under control.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's, and what, if the council was amenable to it, I'm happy to pull forward the interlocal agreement that we have, make sure that all council members receive that copy to review that, to see if there are any, for us to refresh our memories on that, and then to be able to move forward, whether that's a future agenda item, or if there's a direction from council for me to go to the county and have further conversations. Right now, I will say, as we're getting to budget season, we're already going to be having conversations about this and what that looks like moving forward. However, I want to make sure the will of council is also passed forward to them.
Okay. My biggest request would be if they're gonna charge us the 32,000 each year, you know, these fire inspections are somewhat of a little bit of a burden to these commercial owners. You know, sometimes they do a walkthrough and they find this, that, and the other, which is probably needed. But if they're only requested to do one every 3 years, you know, doing one every year is somewhat of a burden to these small entities that's trying to keep their business going. You know, sometimes if the fire marshal's in certain locations just walking through, you might have some clientele ease back out the door thinking there's something wrong with the building at that particular moment. You know, I've heard that from some of the convenience store owners and all, you know, thinking that there's something going on, and they're probably gonna come back. But I don't want them going every year if they don't need to be going 3, and I sure don't want the taxpayers in Mills River paying every year if they don't need to be inspected but every 3.
Is there agreement from? As a reminder, one of our public safety, one of our ensuring community excellence and community safety, our excellence in community safety. There is a goal, there is an objective around making sure that we're minimum 90% of businesses are meeting the state mandated minimum fire inspection services. So also working with them to, like I said, as I mentioned on my list, to better understand state mandated minimums versus annual, and bringing that back to council.
And if we took a look at the possibility of subbing this out in the future, like 2 years down the road, is there even a possibility to do that like we did before?
From my experience, I've had the fortune or pleasure of trying to hire a fire inspector and then a previous position. And it is at that time, which was a few years ago, it was incredibly difficult to find a part-time fire inspector that had all the credentials in order to meet all of the requirements within a town. It's not to say that Mills River is different than where I was before. I just know that it's very difficult, and normally, as I mentioned before, that threshold of that salary cap of a full time is can sometimes be shocking. Surprising. So council direction, if council, tells us that you all wish for us to pursue some alternative solution, then we will work that into the visioning conversation for sure.
The problem is, we're looking at moving this out. We got to give them 1 year notice. So we really don't need this done to possibly 2 years. And if we go looking at a number now, and even if that person may not even be available 2 years from now, that's the problem with this whole deal with this 1 year. Let me know thing.
Understood.
I kind of like the idea if Mills River Fire Department wanted to somehow provide that service and they were close to hiring someone, and I would always want them to have the first opportunity if it's something they wanted to pursue. Because I really like the idea of keeping our people, our fire department.
Mills River Fire Department used to
We
do
got
the
great people.
inspections.
Yeah. I understand it's tough to have all the certifications, but as long as they have first choice, and if it's not feasible at this time, maybe someday it will be.
But forgive me of my ignorance, if we let them do it, they want to do it, and we're paying that, but then we're back to our pay,
Still paying.
We're still paying county taxes, aren't we sort of paying twice? Should we not?
Yeah,
If the county would do it for free, I think no one can compete with free.
Well, no offense, but we do that with the sheriff's.
We're saying
Right. So
Maybe double tax.
Let's just take the
the tax we're already paying. Pardon me, there is nothing free.
Right.
I mean, no additional cost.
There you go. I like
Okay, does that sound better?
Well-
No additional cost. If we can get it for no additional cost, then hey, I'm all for that. But if we
Yeah.
gotta pay someone, I'd rather pay somebody from Mills River, give them first choice,
Understood.
if it's feasible. It may not be feasible, but let's keep asking. Give them, you know,
And if council
Really
wishes
have to
for us to pursue at least preliminary conversations of what that would look like and how it would look. And whether or not they're amenable to, and like, again, very preliminary conversations, and then I'm
preliminary.
happy to do that as well.
I think it's gonna have to be very preliminary, knowing that Scott's fixing to step away possibly in June. That may be something that needs to be bumped out till after the new chief is in place and let him get his feet on the ground and see what he wants to do with his department. And see if he may, you know, you can't ever tell. It's just, we're just in a little dated situation here.
Well, I think to the county now and see if they'll do it for what we already pay in taxes would be the best route.
Well, that was my take on it years ago and it seemed to work, but I had that ace in the hole with, we got it done for this amount of money in this short of time. Maybe, and then I just proposed it as maybe we should just subcontract the whole county out. And this would save the taxpayers of Henderson County like this much money, $380,000. That was back in like 2008. And then all of a sudden it changed real quick. So,
It don't hurt to have a conversation.
yeah, and you know, but we're coming up on budget time, so we're gonna have to have that discussion reasonably quickly. And if they're gonna stick to their guns with all the other municipalities and put us right in there with it, then so be it. But we just need to make sure where we're at coming up on this budget.
Understood.
Yeah, what else you got? Anybody got anything else? So if that's all on that one, we'll discussion on, the, reappointments of the boards and committees.
My name's up there, but I'm gonna let Patty do all the talking.
Thanks.
Mhm.
So Mills River is very blessed that we have citizens that like to serve on our boards and committees. My question tonight is, we have this in 2026, we have 13 term expirations. How do y'all want to deal with term expirations? In the past, we've just put on the consent agenda, reappointing the same person. If they're willing to serve, I reach out to them before I ever come to y'all. If they are willing to serve, put them on the consent agenda and you reappoint them. We've also done it as a regular agenda item where we discuss it. I just don't know what direction you want to go. Do you want to continue to put it on the consent and reappoint, or some places have the people that are coming up for term expirations fill out a new application? Maybe they've got new qualifications. And then I could bring all the applications, the ones on file and the new applications to you. I just need direction.
Okay, so I've been around long enough to know when it was hard to get people on these boards, period. So getting someone to stay was like a blessing in the day. And they bring and they carry over a lot of experience with the past, be it zoning, be it Parks and Rec, be it ag, be whatever. So they can be a valuable resource, you know, and just like here, they don't let us go, all five of us, out of here in one election and replace us with five new ones, because everybody's just sitting here like, okay, who's gonna do what? We need the leader. Who's gonna be the leader? And then the leader don't even know really how to go. You know, he ain't even had his ethics done yet. So, and saying all that to say this, I would never want to put us in a shape to where it almost felt like that the existing people was going to be automatically purged out. I don't think that's right. But I do think it's critical for the council to look at these applications to see if there's someone that's just sitting out there that's got vast experience in what that particular thing is, either planning and zoning, Parks and Rec, ag, whoever coming in that could bring a valuable resource to that committee. I think it would be insane not to look at that person as to fulfill a spot somewhere. Now, is it just to replace the latest one coming off? I don't necessarily agree with that. You might, I think council, it's a hard job, but I think we should pull and look and see what the weaknesses are in those committees and possibly wait till that time to replace them with the most updated specialty person. Y'all know what I'm gonna have a floor.
I just wanted to quickly mention, Patty alluded to it, is that under the current process, it basically says, you know, there's a reappointment that's available on that docket. Now, for council, not, you know, councils in general, it can be awkward to say, okay, we don't wish to reappoint, we would like to look at applications at that point. And so Patty and I were also talking about the ability, and Mayor, I think you were alluding to this, as well as the potential of saying, having the item come forward that has a person who wishes to be reappointed, mention that, call that out as a part of that report, and then also bring forward at the same time the other applications that are on file for knowledge, information, consideration, what have you. And then that decision is still, that would be a motion to vote the person reappointing back in, or someone else at that one item.
And I would be open to that process. You know, the person doesn't necessarily have to reapply, but you know, if we get one of the things that'd be helpful too, if we get a report, like, you know, if they've been on the planning board for 2 years, let's see what their attendance record was too. You know, if they,
We don't attend them. So
we don't know. So, I mean, if they've missed 6 meetings in a year or 2 years, then.
They're really gonna do shit good.
Right, yeah. So then we just present, you know, what their attendance record and then the other applications, and then we just nominate or pick, you know, who we want to be on that committee.
Patty, I don't wish to speak for you, but I know in
I mean,
in past experiences.
Yeah, to me, I look at it, it's a seat.
Yeah.
It's not Jim's seat. It's a seat on the board. So we're not reappointing Jim, we're reappointing someone to the seat. So it can be Jim or it can be anybody.
Understood. Thank you, Councilman. Well, I was just going to mention that in other places, they have used attendance records as well. And we can pull that if that's something council wishes to have on there as well, because again, more information about the time served could serve beneficial.
You also put on there how long they've been on.
Yes, I keep a record of how long they've been on each board.
Because that's a good thing too. Yeah. I mean, sometimes fresh blood's good fun.
And to Bert's defense, when he come up and spoke, I've thought about that a lot since it got mentioned the other day. And, you know, we've got limited resources in ag here. So I certainly want to keep those at my right hand if possible to call on for whatever. Because they bail us out of a lot of other stuff as well sometimes. So I just want to make sure that that they are recognized and appreciated, and we do, and I do understand that they're have a placeholder here, even if they don't actually live here. They're doing business here and all, and I can justify that.
I think right now we've got 2 boards that don't require them to be Mills River residents. And one is the Ag Board and one is the Parks Committee. And the Ag Board, the people that are on there now farm in Mills River and they farm big. And I think they have a lot of input, but they also provide a lot more to the residents. I mean, when something happens, they're usually the first ones out there with tractors helping and offering stuff up. I think that's very important and a resource that we need to appreciate. And with the Parks Committee, like y'all stated, you know, there's a time it was hard to get people on the boards. And, you know, if you've got somebody right outside the limit that comes to the park and uses the park, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, you know, to consider them too. Now with the planning board, they're all from residents, and the Board of Adjustments are all residents.
And I feel they should be.
Right.
Cause they're making direct decisions for the town of Mills River wholeheartedly. Board of Adjustment especially. I mean, it hits right out home with them, so they should have a stake at the table.
Right.
And I'll take this one since I was the one who brought it up. The reason why it's brought up is because, and I'll just be straight to the point. If we're gonna set that precedent, the largest landowner in Mills River is an organization by the name of Big Hills LLC. So if you're gonna give people from outside the community a seat at the table, there's certainly an argument that they should get a seat at the table.
Do they want on the ag board?
I'm just saying any board, because if
We
you
don't
start
have it on
saying,
any board.
I understand that, but I'm saying if you set that precedence of allowing businesses, people who operate businesses, we don't allow Sierra Nevada, we don't allow any of these other people to have seats on.
Well, they don't want on the ag board.
But one of
We
the,
don't- have we
honestly,
advertised
though,
it?
one of the biggest stakeholders in Big Hills lives in the first section, so it could still be possible.
It still could
if
be.
If they want to put an application on.
Right.
My point is it's a precedence thing.
I got you.
And if somebody from Mills River wants to be on that board, I think they should get priority.
Well, if they want to try to get on the Parks Committee, we can consider them for that.
So we can't consider people from Mills River for the ag board, is that what you're saying?
I would say we could.
Not
long
if
as
they're not
as long as
farmers.
As long as they're farmers.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, if it's another farmer in Mills River, they should get priority.
They're more than welcome to put up application.
Right.
Sure.
I think, like to James' point, I don't, when you brought up, did we advertise the position? We haven't advertised it.
I will say though, you know, in the past now, keep in mind that I ain't saying this particular council, but past councils would not allow like 2 or more family members on the same board to keep from having like a, you know, and I wouldn't want that to happen on the ag board either, I don't think.
Well, they're not making, to Ural's point, we'd said, you know, these were not decision-making boards. So that goes back to this point. I mean, it's not zoning and it's not planning.
Okay, but yeah, I still, you know,
Well, if they weren't farming in Mills River, I don't know why they would want to be on the ag board. But if they are farming in Mills River, they're an active part of the community. It's not like they're somebody just out there wanting to come in here and give their opinion.
and we're talking about a limited amount of folks too. I don't know, Bert might know how many active bona fide farmers they are in Mills River. It could be many. So I'm just gonna say, you know, I don't know. I just want us to be good neighbors is all, that's always my little quote of the day. And I just know that, pretty much any of those people that's on that board, if the town of Mills River need them for anything, they're pretty much one phone call away. And I would hope that anybody else that come on any of them, committees would do the same, but I just know that, farmers have a big resource of equipment, stuff that bail us out of certain situations if need be.
And to be clear, I'm not looking to remove anybody.
Oh, I know.
Anybody who's on there would be grandfathered in
Yeah.
and they would get reappointed or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to remove
I
anybody.
know.
So I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories and, you know,
I'm
but
just-
that's not what this is.
With me knowing I'm stepping away in 10 months or whatever, I'm just trying to make sure everybody understands my philosophy with the experience I've got. You know, when we was having trouble out here unloading, you know, and I just picked up the phone and I called Kirby and I said, hey, can I run over and get a fork truck? They're getting ready to kill my tractor.
Mhm.
There's not gonna be a front bearing left in this little tractor. They're unloading full pallets of water and stuff out of the back of the truck. And the tires are turning sideways on this little Kubota. I gotta get them something over here. He said, go over and get anything you want if you can get it running. A lot of it underwater.
Sure.
You know, that didn't work out. Couldn't get none of that run. So we ended up going across the street and asking for one from, over here, and somebody brought us one on the rollback from, maybe on James's. Yeah, so we had one in just a matter of minutes, but, that's just the community we live in. We know each other. We got, you know, I'm not saying that anybody else that come on wouldn't be the same way, but please apply so we'll know about it. And then, because every one of us is getting old too. So we got to keep that in consideration. You know, the ones that's there now ain't always gonna be there. So we gotta have people coming behind that's got the same attitude, I hope, as the ones there now to keep everything moving somewhere the same.
I think that's some of the point of this is that
Okay.
if we don't get new people in and new blood in, and on all of our boards, it's not
Yeah,
directed to any,
And I can appreciate.
then we're not bringing new blood in.
I can appreciate that. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's,
And the level of service among young people nowadays is almost non-existent.
Exactly.
So you
Well,
have to groom them.
I think that our boards, our people that volunteer, they really take a lot of their time and their effort, and you think about it all the time, and it's, there's a lot to it, and, there's only so many years. Thank goodness we've got some people that have been around a long time, and they're really, really good, really professional. I mean, our Board of Adjustments, their planning board, ag board, they're all very, but, people that want to be part of the town should go ahead and turn in an application. Let's have it on file. And people's lives change. Somebody might win the lottery and say, this is great, but I'm going to live in Mills River, but I don't, I'm busier now or something. People's lives change, and people may decide, this is enough. I don't want to be on it anymore. And so if we can have some applications on file, that really helps.
So,
And
sorry.
no, and so you just took my brain,
so
just
sorry.
went, and that's okay.
I wish I could help you get back.
No, it probably wasn't worth saying anyway. Laura would be saying, quit, be quiet now.
Well, I know that farmers have always been the backbone to Mills River. I mean, snow's coming. They say ice. The first one to get out and start plowing roads is farmers.
Well, I was thinking when Scott mentioned that they had already located pulling tractors in different locations. Our department don't have
They don't own tractors.
no tractors, I don't think. So I'm sure those are donated farm tractors.
Right.
Somewhere,
Well.
somebody and staged up, ready to be used.
I remember what I was going to say. People that any of our boards are public meetings. And if it's something you think you might want to serve on, come to the meetings, watch it, be there. And you can be heard. I mean, even if you're not on a board, you can still be heard. All the boards are open to good input.
And they all accept
They all accept
applications.
applications, and they're always, come be heard. That's the problem, is get people to come be heard and be part of it. So anyway.
One of the things that I'm hearing repeatedly is, getting applications in. And one of the things that we've talked about, and you may have seen in the Hendersonville Lightning a couple issues ago, was this push that happens from a couple of other towns or organizations that put out, at a semi, regular basis about, the different opportunities and boards and committees for volunteer opportunities. And so if it's if council's open to it, I think that there's something else that we can also do from an internal administrative perspective to just, on a regular cadence every few months or something, continue to try to push out these and just try to collect those volunteers who are willing. And then when we're ready, we'll have hopefully a good group to be able to respond to.
So Patty, you have an understanding of where we want to go moving forward for this? It's, I think, similar to what we've been doing. Does that sound correct, guys and gals?
Do you still want it to be a consent item, or would you like for it to be a regular agenda item where you can discuss it?
I will leave that up to the council. Consensus, we can't really make a motion in this meeting, but direction.
I would like to see when we can look at applications when something's coming up and, then discuss it in council.
I'll tell you, what do you think about this idea? So we see the applications fairly regularly, and then if
Right.
any new ones come up, she always shares those. So if you see some interested party that's put in an application or has an existing application that you might want to fill a spot, reach out to me and then I can get it put on the agenda for that particular one. As long as everybody's cool with what's moving forward and everybody getting a reappointment or whatever, we just keep it on the consent agenda. Just to keep these meetings moving, because they are so long, it seems like. I mean, what do you think? I mean, or do we want to discuss each and every one of these?
What I could do is, because I send you out the applications, like when you have a vacancy, I send you the applications ahead of time. I could, if I have an application on file, I could send it to you ahead of time, along with the person that's up for reappointment, and let you look at both of them.
I think that's wonderful.
And still let us know how long they've been on
Yeah.
there. Have they missed meetings? And are they still interested?
y'all can just relay to me, consent agenda or a discussion item, and I can get with Matt and Patty, make sure it gets put on whichever one y'all please.
We can do.
Fair enough?
Hmm.
All right. Marching orders. Future agenda items? Anybody got anything? I don't this time. No.
I just want to take a second to thank our town staff. Having been a city employee, it's tough. And you get lots of aggressive encouragement. So I just want to say thanks for what you do. We're very blessed.
I've got one thing. Mr. Foster walked up here and said that he knows for sure that if the power goes out for multiple days and you can't get a radio station, that WGCR 94.9 has got generators and everything, and they're going to be broadcasting 24/7 with all the latest updates. So I told him I'd pass that along. And I just emphasize, make sure anybody that's out there listening, keep them generators out of the house. My biggest fear as a mayor is to wake up one morning and hear some of my residents passed away from not having the generator outside, trying to rent in the garage or something. Get them outside if you're going to use them.
Carbon monoxide, your blood would rather have it 100 times more than oxygen.
Yeah.
It's like Doritos versus broccoli. Now, kids listening, I do eat broccoli, but given the choice, Doritos, food of the gods.
Good, good, good.
I would like,
I come up earlier on it, but I would like to keep talking about the ag lease and the future meeting.
Okay.
We're marching quickly into seed buying season.
We're already there.
And I apologize, I meant to bring up the ag lease as well. We are in conversations. We've been talking to Withers, making sure that what potential needs that they would have to need access. We think we're in a really strong spot to look at putting a large portion of that. Now, I'm not going to quote on acreage, but a large portion of that into an ag lease through December of 2026. So we're planning on bringing that forward very soon.
And in that ag lease, we got to have some restrictions on what would be planted in it. You know, when we're moving forward with some potential construction, we don't want to put anything that's going to be, we're going to have to really have a hard time getting back through it or cleaning it back up.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Mayor, we, during our come together meeting this morning, we actually had that conversation about what potential crops, if any, may be
Okay.
a hindrance back there. Right now, there's not anything major,
Okay.
but I'll bring it forward.
Sounds good.
I would like to see a discussion on our floodplains. I know I told y'all about the Mud Creek project that Hendersonville City's having to do and what they've gone through to get there and how much they've spent. Right now, the farmers maintain most of ours, going down through these fields and cleaning ditches, and I guess the zoning people are out riding around. They can look and see if there's issues somewhere that might need discussed and addressed before it's to the $4.2 million price tag.
Well,
I mean,
Mills River Partnership does a lot of stream
They
branch
do.
restoration.
well, going down,
Not just with town. I guess this, he's also the head honcho of that one. But I don't know. They're not gonna go clean out ditches. That would be counterintuitive.
Right.
What their
well,
goals are.
and to be honest with you, a lot of ditches can't be touched if they got water running through them, like you might think. You're
Well-
kind of illegal to get in it unless you got the appropriate permitting.
right. Well, looking at going down through the river and the ditches that go into there would be a concern. One I know right off the top of my head is going down Hooper Lane, where trees have fell and the roads eroding into the ditch, and DOT has not got out there. Me and Matt discussed that the other day. Going down through the backside park, that's train wreck. And the ditches are full and filled in and non-existent.
You're talking about the ditches that lead to the Mills River?
Uh-huh.
I can say that according to Henderson County, that they have all the storm debris as far as tree removal and all. it's my understanding, they've turned all that back over to the state to handle. That they're out of that debris removing business, I think is what I've heard.
For storm debris removal, yeah, so then, yeah, they've moved to the state.
So, yeah, so not to say DOT couldn't do that, but they would have to have funds appropriated through a different, if it's related to the lien damage from trees, toppling during that situation.
I'm happy to report it them and
Yeah.
make sure that it's stayed on the radar because, you know, being able to put it through the proper channels, hopefully we'll put it on on the proper person's radar.
Well, I just don't want to get in a situation out there to where we're getting major flooding and then find out down the road that it's gonna cost millions of dollars to fix it. When if we'd have paid attention to it along the way, it wouldn't have had to have happened.
Anything in?
I did see an excavator on a barge going down Brett Broad. It was pretty cool.
All right, nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn our business meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?